We now bring in former CIA agent Eric Cole. He's also a cybersecurity expert and CEO of Secure Anchor. Eric, good morning to you. Let me just clarify, too, this second Signal thread reportedly took place on the very same day as the first Signal chat occurred. My first question to you, how bad is this, part two of the story, you think?
This is really bad because the reality is if you make a mistake, you have to learn from that mistake and not repeat it over again. The bottom line is there are protocols in place and secure devices at Department of Defense. You cannot use personal devices to communicate any sort of military operations, even if they're not classified. You must have separate devices and separation of the data.
Yeah, and just in your experience, I mean, are these mistakes usually bad tech practices? Is it bad judgment? Is it a little bit of everything? How do you see it?
It's really just a little bit of everything. The reality is Hegseth is coming from the commercial sector. And unfortunately, in the commercial sector, bring your own device is very common. Many executives and many folks just have a single device where they do all the communication. So he's just used to casual practices around texting, using public apps. And unfortunately, when he came over to Department of Defense, it doesn't look like he had the proper training or the proper protocols in place, and he's just using bad habits and using them in an inappropriate way.
Yeah, okay, and when you talk about communications, I think that's the key point that everyday Americans, including myself, want to know, right, is how should these senior officials be communicating with one another when they need to have a sensitive discussion, they need to make sensitive decisions, and what communication channels are in place right now that would have been appropriate for this?
So right now in place in the government and the Department of Defense, they actually have separate devices. They actually have phones that are secure, lockdown, proper encryption, proper control. So the reality is I know it's an inconvenience and people don't like it, but you really have to have two devices. Not only if you're working for the government, but even if you're working in a commercial organization where you have sensitive trade secrets, you need to have one device that you use for personal use and a separate device that you use for communication. And those are in existence. And the question is, why isn't Hegseth using the appropriate mechanisms that were provided to him when he came on board?
And then, a portion of the information that he shared on this thread that included his wife and his brother and his attorney were the flight schedules of the F-18 Hornets that were targeting the Houthis in Yemen. How detrimental is it to share that kind of information with outsiders?
It's very detrimental because the reality is when you're using a public device, when you're using public apps, that information can be accessible. Other people can get access to it. Other people can access those devices. And very often, personal devices can sometimes be hacked and already be monitored. So you have to go in with the assumption that if you're using a personal device, that information is public. So he's basically publicly sharing this information with any adversary or anybody that could want to cause harm to America.
Yeah, and then just lastly, speaking of hacking, what more do you know of Signal, and is there valid fear that this is a hackable platform?
So Signal is known as one of the more secure platforms. So it does point-to-point encryption. So over the wire, it's encrypted. But you have to remember that it's on the device that we have to worry about. So while Signal is considered a secure app, most devices have a lot of other apps and a lot of other things running. And if a device gets compromised, then any of the data at rest that's being used across Signal could be accessed or used by an adversary.
I got to end it there, but Eric Cole, thank you so much for being here as we continue to follow all these new developments. Appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now